Hi everyone, it's Jonathan Ferguson here, keeper of firearms and artillery, with another interesting historic firearm to show you. Here it is. This is the Giandoso TZ45, a Second World War, 1944 vintage, 9mm parabellum, blowback operated submachine gun. We'll touch on what blowback means in a moment because it's relevant to this design. Briefly, TZ45, the T in the 45 is the year of introduction. TZ stands for the designer's names, Tonon and Zorzoli. And they worked with the Armagera Cremona factory to produce this design in 1944-ish. But the name, the name of the gun, the Giandoso, comes from the factory where it was actually produced. Ultimately, it wasn't produced at the Armagera facility. It went to the Giandoso factory in Brescia, which is a major gun-making hub going back to the 16th century. We have matchlock firearms from that region of Italy. But those are some of their proudest moments, and they still Beretta still makes very good quality firearms there. This is not quite to those standards because it's very much a last-ditch submachine gun in the mould of the Sten. In fact, I've got a Sten to briefly show you in a second. So let's get into what's significant about this. Apart from being a completely original indigenous Italian design, although heavily inspired by previous designs, it tackles an inherent problem with the blowback submachine gun. So I've said blowback, what do I mean? The way these work, very simple. There's no moving firing pin or spring or anything in the bolt. You literally just cock it back and insert a loaded magazine. This one's empty. And when you pull the trigger, the round is stripped from the magazine, pushed into the chamber, and that fixed nubbin firing pin crushes the primer, fires the cartridge, and then the rearward travel of the case blows back the bolt to the starting position. If it's on semi-automatic, it'll stop here, as it has on this one, which is set to semi. If it's on automatic, it'll keep firing till the gun's empty, or you take your finger off the trigger. Great, easy to make, easy to produce, perfectly sound design, perfectly accurate for what the submachine gun is used for. The problem comes, and you'll hear this story a lot from veterans, especially if they're around in the 40s, 50s, maybe the 60s, it is the safety aspect. So you could, in theory, so I'll just let that go forward again. In theory, you could snag the cocking handle, and it might come back far enough as you tug to try and free the gun to fly forward, chamber a cartridge and fire it. Might just have enough inertia to crush that primer and fire the cartridge, in which case you're potentially shooting a friend or the scenery or whatever. It's even possible if the butt is banged hard onto a surface that inertia can cause the bolt to come back far enough to do the same thing. So various solutions to this have been invented. The Sten gun suffered from this flaw, British Sten gun, and the solution there was to go back and, literally in the case of the ones that were already made, drill a hole here and modify the cocking handle so that you have to carry it with the bolt forwards, so you'd have to cock the weapon before firing it, but you pull out the cocking handle and that frees it up to move. With it locked into place into that hole, that's the other side of it there, it can't go anywhere. It doesn't matter if you hit it, doesn't matter if you snag it, it's perfectly safe, and then when it comes time to fire, you pull it out, cock it, and do what you need to do with it. That worked fine, but because Giandoso is a little later, and this problem is known, they have tackled that in a different way. They've got a grip safety at the front here. Let me see if I can get you a proper view of that. That's the front, try and get the light. There we go. That's me pressing the lever, and you can see the little peg at the back is being pulled out of the receiver, and if I let it go, it springs back to position. So it's doing the same thing as the Sten. It's locking the bolt forward and preventing you from firing it. What it does that the Sten doesn't do is, so you have to press the grip safety to cock it. Let's say you have it in that unsafe condition, which you shouldn't because you're trained not to, but let's say you do. But you're not ready to fire, i.e. you don't have your hand gripping the magazine well at the front, ready to fire. If you pull the trigger back accidentally, it stops. It stops on that peg. And you can see the bolt has not gone forward. So it's safer than a Sten gun. You have to make a conscious effort, not just to cock the weapon, but to grip it in a proper firing grip. And while as we're doing that, let's deploy the stock. Be a little bit gentle, because although these are tough and military, they are old. So that's the stock out. So you have to adopt a proper firing grip. The slight downside is if you do have to fire one-handed, if you're dragging a wounded comrade or trying to pick something up or using a grenade, something like that, you cannot fire the gun. We can, but you've now put it in a state where it's decocked effectively, so you have to grip it with both hands. Ian on Forgotten Weapons goes into a much deeper dive on this design and on the pros and cons of that system. But I just wanted to show you our example. So the legacy of this thing, well, only 6,000 made, so not much of one in Italy. But apparently they did in fact get copied and produced in Burma, called Myanmar today, as the BA-52. So the design did have a legacy of sorts, although of course into the modern era we've moved away from submachine guns. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching. We have links in the description if you would like to donate to the museum or perhaps even become a member. But other than that, stay tuned and we'll have some more videos for you. Thanks very much.